evening. Welcome to this Wanderlust event in which we're going to be talking about Fort Myers and Sanibel. So, really looking forward to this. Come on in, make yourself comfy, and in a few minutes, I'll be introducing you to our experts for tonight, and we'll be finding out lots more about this relatively little known corner of Florida. And yes, do say hello and where you're from. So welcome, Peter, first in the chat box from Bowdle in Cheshire. And yes, Colin from Bournemouth, welcome. Rosary from Dorset. Oh, cold North Norfolk. Hello, Jenny. Roy in Norwich. Christian from Denmark. So there's some familiar names on here already this evening. Julie from Lancashire. DeMarco Ciao from Italy. Rosie from Wanderlust joining us. Hi, Rosie. Timothy from Sandown. Carla from Arizona. So we've got at least one person on tonight from the States. Louise from Malta. See, we're very exotic on here. Rebecca from Manchester. And David from Reigate. Simon Eyre from the Suffolk Coast. So far too many to name everybody. But yes, do say where you're from. Hi, Kevin from Cyprus. Linda from Chippenham. Dave from Reading. Liz from Amersham, and Chris Allen from Cape Coral. Where's Cape Coral? That does sound exotic. That's not in Florida, is it? Andrea from Rossendale. Martin Sivington, one of the Wanderlust writers, is joining us from Bidston. Hi, Martin. Mary from Dublin. And Mark says, Ola from Santa Fe. So we're covering the world tonight, definitely. Hello to Jane in Oxford. So, yes, do make yourself comfortable. I hope you've got some refreshments to hand. And we will be kicking off in a moment. And I will then introduce you to the panel, because really looking forward to this, because we are talking about somewhere I haven't been and I want to know more. Hello to Lynn from Croydon. Welcome, welcome. Elizabeth from Hebden Bridge in West Yorkshire. And to Jill from Castle Corfe in Dorset. Very beautiful part of the world. Paul in St. Petersburg. Gosh. So, yeah, really mixed where people are joining us from this evening. And as I say, we're going to be talking about the beaches of Fort Myers and Sanibel. So a real little known corner of Florida. And I don't know, if you're like me, you might sort of think, Florida? Why would I want to go to Florida? Isn't it all theme parks? And yeah, I'm sorry, great panel. I am guilty of thinking in the past, would I really want to go to Florida? But I know that this is going to be my kind of destination. So really looking forward to this. Hello to Kersey in Cambridgeshire. So, yes, if you do tend to think that Florida might be just about theme parks and space stations, well, no, much more to it than that. And in fact, I was looking at the website earlier of America As You Like It, to one of our partners tonight in this event. And I love their description, actually, of Fort Myers and St. Sanibel. They describe it as the Florida of days long past, with unspoiled white sand beaches, exotic wildlife, and lush subtropical foliage. It can still be found on the beaches of Fort Myers and Sanibel. It's known as Florida's unspoiled island sanctuary, a subtropical paradise. Now, gosh, if that doesn't make you want to go there, what will? So, and somebody, Liz, says that she's seen a friend's collection of shells from Sanibel. Yes, because, of course, it's very well known for its shells. And I'm sure we'll be hearing a bit more about that. Tara Sanderson says, hi, everybody. I love Fort Myers. I'm overdue another stay there. Well, there's a ringing endorsement already. So thank you for that, Tara. And Ruthie says that's all true, what I just said, I think. So she has presumably been. So Ruthie, I hope you'll share your knowledge in the chat box tonight. Right, so I'm going to have a cough. I sound a bit hoarse. Oh dear, sorry about that. Okay, well, let's, without further ado, let's introduce our panel this evening. So we are joined by, all the way from, well, Miriam, where are you sitting right now? Hey, Miriam.
Hi, I'm in Fort Myers in this exact moment, downtown Fort Myers to be exact.
Downtown Fort Myers, brilliant. And what's the time there right now?
It is 1:35 to be exact, p.m.
1:35 in the afternoon, yeah.
Yes.
So I bet it's lovely and sunny there.
It is. I don't want to brag too much because I love where you guys live too. But right now, if I could peek out the window, we couldn't because I'm on the 6th floor of an office right now. But I've got a little makeshift window back here, but it's pretty spot on. It's beautiful and sunny outside right now.
Oh, wonderful. So Miriam is the communications coordinator for Lee County Visitor and Convention Bureau. And before entering the world of public relations, Miriam spent more than 12 years in television news as an anchor person and a presenter. So, gosh, I mean, we've got to have a chat over a beer about that sometime, Miriam. When I come out there, I'm going to ask you all about that.
Stories.
I bet. But Miriam did begin her career in Fort Myers, starting off as a video editor and producer before going into the world of on-air reporting. But nowadays, for Miriam, her husband and 2 young children keep her on her toes, and they make sure that she gets out and about, going around outdoors and visiting all the local parks and beaches. So, brilliant. And then we're also joined by Peter Corradino, who was born and raised just west of the Everglades in Venice, Florida. And Peter, again, an intriguing past because you grew up at the Florida Monkey Sanctuary.
I did.
That's amazing. Again, you know, when I come to Florida, we're going to have a chat about this. And a private non-profit organisation that was owned and operated by Peter's parents. And his experience at the sanctuary also provided the opportunity to become immersed in the natural history of the area. So after university, Pete guided for Everglades Day Safari before working as a park ranger in Vermont. But he then returned to his native state of Florida in 2007 to once again guide visitors on Everglades excursions. And Pete's now the owner of Everglades Day Safari. Welcome, Pete. And I know we're going to be hearing all about the wildlife and birds from you, which is really looking forward to that. And then we've also got Captain Bob Rando, who is captain and co-owner of Captiva Cruises, a family-owned and operated cruise excursion service that helps visitors and locals experience the natural beauty of Southwest Florida. And the company is a recognized leader in the Florida ecotourism industry, attracting thousands of guests each year to experience the beauty of the region. And passengers encountered true Florida while being educated on the unique ecosystems and native wildlife. So if that doesn't make you want to get on a boat already, I don't know what will. That sounds fantastic. Last but not least, we're also joined by Kath Pusey of America As You Like It. Welcome, Kath. So you're not anywhere as glamorous as Florida, though, are you, right now?
No, I'm afraid not, Lynn. I'm in a very dark and chilly London, probably a bit like you. I'm longing to be somewhere sunny and warm as Florida.
Yes, I think we're all dreaming of it at the moment, aren't we, as the night's really drawing. Oh, gosh, it's that time of year when we're itching to get back out there. So, obviously, America As You Like It does what it just says on the tin. You specialise in the US. Yeah. But what sort of things do you offer in Fort Myers and Sanibel?
Well, as you said, we pretty much do holidays as you like it. So everything that we do can be tailor-made to suit whatever people want to do. But on our website, we have a couple of holiday ideas for the beaches of Fort Myers and Sanibel, really focusing on sort of the nature, the beaches, a little bit of the history and culture, and a combination of all of those things. And you can choose to stay in a private home or an apartment or a really nice inn. So there's all kinds of different opportunities. But you're going to hear a lot more about it from the experts who live and breathe it every day. So I won't say too much more about it. But yeah, we can certainly help anybody put a holiday together.
Brilliant.
Florida, no problem.
Yeah, terrific. Well, Kath's going to be in the chat box while our experts are speaking. So if you do have any questions at all about visiting, Kath will hopefully be able to help with some of those in the chat box. And Kath will also be joining the rest of the experts towards the end when we'll have a general Q&A. So if you don't ask in the chat box, then you can always save your questions up as well for when we've got all our great speakers back on. And I see we've still got lots of comments coming on. Tara Sanderson says, 1:35 cocktail on the beach time, a too distant memory. Oh, yes. I think those of us, certainly in the UK and Northern Europe, will be thinking about, a cocktail on the beach right now would be rather lovely. And Janet Turner says, hi from Janice and Michael from Stockport. Our only experience of Florida is Miami Airport on the way to Belize. Yes, I've done that route. So looking forward to being enlightened. Exactly. Should we have stayed and actually spent some time on Fort Myers? And I guess that's the other great thing as well about somewhere in Florida. Obviously, we can add it on to other travels as well. So because it's so well connected. So this, I think, is going to be very, very enticing. As ever, if you've been on a Wanderlust event before, we will be recording the event and we will be sending up a follow-up email in a couple of days' time. We can always put useful links in there. If you want to know how places are spelt, anything like that, those recommendations and top tips, we'll include those in there. So please don't panic if you have to leave before the end. But having said that, we hope you will be with us till the very end, because it's going to be really, really interesting. So before we hear from our great speakers, why don't we have a short video to get us in the mood?
I think the Edison and Ford Winter Estates are a very unique place. I think we're a hidden gem amongst Florida attractions.
They can float around for up to a year before they choose their final destination.
Growing up in an area that there's lots of wildlife and walk around areas that really no one else gets to see, that's what, keeps your heart beating and keeps you wanting to come back for more.
Okay, well, I think that certainly got us in the right frame of mind, those of us who aren't sitting in Fort Myers right now. But, pleading ignorance, Miriam, where exactly are we talking about? Where are the beaches of Fort Myers?
Yeah. It's a good question. Can you guys hear me okay, first of all, just to make sure? Okay, good. And tell me if I'm talking too fast. My former broadcast days kind of got me to get a lot of info in a short amount of time. So anyway, I'm so happy to be here with you guys. And let's get you here, okay? First of all, it is 79 degrees right now. So it is beautiful, low humidity, and you're looking at a map of where we are on this map. When you hear of Florida, you probably think of Disney or Miami, maybe a little, fun in the sun and overstimuli, if you will. But here, we're on the southwest side, the southwest corridor. So really almost directly west of Miami. And we're talking about maybe a 2.5 to 3 hour drive. And then about 2 hours north, depending on how fast you go on the highway, you get to Tampa. So just to give you some perspective. And then toward the middle of the state is Orlando, where you would find Disney. So if you were to drive from here to Disney, it's a good 3-hour drive, just to give you some perspective there. Key West, obviously you can see low on the map there, is where you would then get to that destination, which if you were to drive there from here would take you a good almost 6 hours. So, and that is just due to the traffic patterns and the way things are in our great state of Florida. It's a huge state, with Jacksonville way up at the top. But when we break out into some smaller portions of where Lee County is, it's a pretty big county. States-wise, it's actually probably about the size of Rhode Island, believe it or not. So it gives you a lot of different things that you can do. And of course, we're known for our beaches, which there are plenty of. As a matter of fact, there's 100 different islands and barrier islands and ways that you can get around and visit different portions. Cape Coral, you can see on the map there. I know there's somebody here from Cape Coral watching. Hello, you're in my hometown right now too. It is actually the second largest city by land in Florida, which a lot of people don't realize, and has actually become home to one of the biggest and best places to rent a home. You get kind of the homey feel while also being close to the water. There's more man-made, there's more canals there than Venice, Italy, even, believe it or not. So lots of different ways to get to the Gulf of Mexico from really any place in Lee County. So you're never far from the water. But if you are where I am right now, and if you look again on that map where Fort Myers is a totally different scene in downtown Fort Myers, where you've got the history and the Caloosahatchee River, lots of different things to see and do other than the beaches as well. Although the beaches, of course, are just, it's beautiful, pristine, gorgeous, and different personalities of beaches here in Lee County. I mean, you go to Captiva and Sanibel, and you're going to have a totally different experience on Fort Myers Beach, which is going to be a totally different experience on Pine Island or Boca Grande. And we can get into more of those exact personalities, but it's really something for everyone. And one thing I do want to make a point of is that places like Sanibel are really never going to change. There's actually ordinances in place so that there'll never be a building taller than a palm tree. That's not where you're going to find your high rises. It's not where you're going to find all of the crazy nightlife. The nightlife is the wildlife. It's respected so much. There's no street lights because we don't want to distract for nocturnal animals and things like that. There's a healthy and good respect for wildlife, and we share those roads with them. So we really make sure we stay true to that. And there are laws in place so that if you came to visit this weekend, which we hope you do soon, because we're dying to see you guys, you could come here in 30 years. It will most likely look the same, at least in that area. So just a couple different little tidbits there, but I know there's probably some more specific areas that maybe you want to talk about or see. But shelling is also something that's really exciting on Sanibel because it's known as the shelling capital of the world. And if you didn't think it was a thing, it really is. It's the shelling is the most place where you find the most shells. And that is because of where and how it is placed, as you can see on that map with an east-west orientation. So shelling is like a #1 thing that you have to make sure you do if you come anywhere near Lee County in this area in Fort Myers.
Yes, I hadn't appreciated until recently. I mentioned Fort Myers and Sanibel to somebody, and they said something like the shell capital of the world. And no, it sounds like the shells are beautiful. Just to stress, of course, that we can't bring shells back to the UK.
Yes, the living shells you can't. But they do encourage you to take a few for a souvenir. And a lot of people have wondered, well, is this going to see something of over-tourism, as in, oh my goodness, if I take too many shells, are we going to run out of shells? And that's not going to necessarily be the case. But yeah, no living shells. We want to leave those guys here.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think that would be incredible to see so many shells. That does sound amazing. Just still on the practicalities, because I see there's a little airplane symbol. So you have got your own airport, have you? You know, to get there.
Yes. So we've got it's RSW, Regional Southwest International Airport. So it is actually in the process of even expanding and getting a little bit of a renovation due to it's actually one of the best airports you'll ever be in. And I'm not saying that just because I'm biased. It is one of the best. We have the best volunteers. It's clean, it's safe, it's simple for travelers to get around. You cannot get lost in there. And it's an awesome spot.
Okay, terrific. And I'm staggered that you say there's around 100 islands. That's amazing. But yes, we can see there's an awful lot of dots there. Yeah. How easy? I know we'll probably be talking about the islands later on as well with Captain Bob. But how easy is it to get around, get out to the islands, and so on?
Yeah, and Captain Bob can definitely talk and expand on that with even more of a firsthand perspective. As far as getting around, there are plenty of different ways to get or charter a boat or be able to rent a boat if you wanted to. The bridges will get you around from, you can see on that map too, if you wanted to get onto Fort Myers Beach, then there's some options there, even just to get you out onto the water, jet skiing, things like that too, just to get you around. Pine Island Sound, in that area, there's a little place called Bokeelia. It's not even on that map there, but there's places where you can go out and about. So we say 100 different islands. There really are obviously very small places too. You do just want to plan ahead of time if you can. We get really busy during what we would typically have in our season time, which is usually, November through, we say kind of Easter. But with this past crazy year, our season has kind of extended. Right now, we are in this new territory of season all the time. Although, typically September is our slowest month. This past September, we saw a huge crowd of people just wanting to come and hang out, but it wasn't too much where it was overcrowded, maybe depending on who you ask. But so we do keep an eye on that and want to make sure that that is something that we think about here in our area. But getting around, yes, certainly plenty of spots to be able to rent a boat. Always good to have a friend with a boat, right? And then also getting out in places like Captiva Cruises and give you plenty of day options, half day options where you can maybe go somewhere, have lunch, and then come back and kind of get your whole day in that way.
And is there accommodation on the islands? Can we stay on some of them? Yeah,
some of them there are. And as a matter of fact, places like Cayo Costa have campgrounds. You can actually camp on the islands, which is a very unique experience. Cayo, as actually we call it Cayo, kind of here as the locals, Cayo Costa, has been known and has been featured in many articles for being one of the best places to camp. You get a lot of different options and ways that you can stay there. Places like Boca Grande, to be quite frank, it's so beautiful and it's awesome for a day trip. Not as much for the accommodations. Fort Myers Beach, on the other hand, Sanibel, Captiva, tons of places to be able to stay and all different kinds of places too. If you want a big resort, you've got places like the Pink Shell. If you want smaller places or even other places, like another hotel is called Diamond Head, and it's got a brand new restaurant right on the top that overlooks the water, and plenty of different types of options. Cottages, if you want to stay in little tiny villages, is what they're called on Matlacha and Pine Island. That's a whole nother experience as well.
Yeah, because I was going to say it's those types of accommodation, say cottages and family-owned hotels. Do you have nice inns and places like that?
Yes, inns. Even there's a place that comes to mind right now, the Inns on Sanibel. It's literally called that, and there's a lot of that kind of stuff. Little bed and breakfast. There's a place called the Hibiscus House, which is right on the spot, not far from my office right now. It's called McGregor Boulevard, which is a historic street, which is right where Thomas and Edison Ford estates are on. There's this great little bed and breakfast that sits right between downtown Fort Myers and in the Edison Ford estates, if you can imagine that. So it's very quaint, very cozy. And then there's also just those beachfront places on Sanibel that, you can have the overlooking patio if you want, or you can have more of a spacious spot. And then again, going back to the rentals, there's a lot of options for vacation rentals and renting a home, or even the big mansions. If you want to have a big family reunion or something like that, there's plenty of options for that too, that are quite affordable and decent to do, especially if you want to, bring the whole family for a week or so.
Mm. And you said that obviously the season has traditionally been November to Easter, although it's changing. But what is it like out of season? Can we still visit the rest?
Oh, absolutely. In summertime is what we would call our non-season time, if you will. And usually it's because of the heat. And then usually though, you've got summer vacation though, or holiday, where we love to have people here. Actually, I think it's one of the best times to be here. Sure, it can be a little bit hot, but you'll find that there's plenty to do even at that 3 o'clock hour or 4 o'clock when we get our afternoon showers, there's plenty of other things to do. Check out museums, take that time to take your afternoon nap, let that rain, go over, cool you off, and then you're back out for dinner. And there's plenty to do in that time. A lot of people think maybe, I don't think I want to go in the summertime, or maybe that's when all the families are going. Each month I feel like has its own unique part of it due to holidays or whatever's going on. But there's always something to do for any age group too. And I can't stress that enough, because it is kind of a hidden gem, but it kind of stays that way. So you still get that feel in the summertime or during high season as well. Now, spring training is something else I just wanted to touch on really quick too. So if we have any baseball fans or just sports fans in general, during March in particular, the Boston Red Sox and the Minnesota Twins train here. So you get a lot of little celebrity sightings. Beer and baseball go hand in hand. We have almost 13 breweries, 2 distilleries in town that you can get, a craft beer that's brewed right here in Fort Myers, or even in Cape Coral, there's one as well. And just enjoy, a brew, a broad, and a game. And whether you like baseball or not, it's like, it's a feel and it's a culture that's really fun to be around.
Well, I was going to say, I'm not even particularly into sport, but I just love the sound of that already. And I think
I know, you can smell it in the air.
Somewhere else and see another sport and see people practicing everything is just amazing. A great way into a culture. Yeah. But of course, I guess the main reason why people are visiting is for this. As you say, it's a hidden gem. It's not so well known, but all those islands as well. Yes, I'm just imagining this great island lifestyle.
Yes, definitely an island feel. And there's places like Cabbage Key, for example. It's got one restaurant. I mean, if you're trying to imagine this, it's one restaurant, couple of little houses. There's even a little cottage called the Doll House where you can stay in it. And they managed to make it so that you feel like you're getting this exclusive feel every single time. There are parts of like Fort Myers Beach that get very busy during spring break, which would be March time here for us. And that's more of the younger vibe, the college kids, getting loose, hanging outside on the beach and that kind of thing. But you can go to these smaller islands and you kind of almost feel like it's just for you. And I'm sure, our captain and our other experts on the panel and people talk about that, of how this area manages to do that. It's kind of a unique skill. And again, that's kind of what we pride ourselves on, because we don't want to be overdone. And we want to make sure we are living hand in hand with nature. So those sea turtle nesting season, which just wrapped up October 31st, when you go to these islands, we ask, I also do film permitting. We ask you do not even set up tripods in the sand, because we want to share it with them. But that just goes back to this island feel, a cocktail in your hand or a mocktail, whatever you're into, or a kid's lemonade if you want to bring the kids, a hammock, a nice breeze every day, and it just takes you far away. It really does.
Oh, blissful. Now, you mentioned the nature there and the turtles, and I think we already had a question about the turtles. And obviously an awful lot of Wanderlust readers are into nature and wildlife. And I know we are going to be hearing from Peter a bit about the wildlife watching. But shall we actually, we've got a video, haven't we? Shall we see the video first?
Yeah, let's check out the video.
With so much to see and do in Fort Myers, plans can sometimes seem to overwhelm the senses. So here's our definitive guide to the local wildlife.
My 3 favorite ocean animals would be the Atlantic bottlenose dolphin, the loggerhead sea turtles, that's mostly what we get nesting on our beaches here, and then the West Indian manatees.
Right when that was happening, there was a couple more manatee right here alongside the boat. They're being a little lethargic and kind of lazy right now. Where we're at here along the backside of North Captiva, we're in, I'd say, about 8 to 10 feet of water here, so fairly deep considering the area. Out here to the left, it's only, a foot or two depending on the tide. So what the manatee do, they'll come back in an area like this to rest, kind of down at the bottom. In the summertime when the water's really warm, they'll go down to the muddy bottom and wallow to stay cool. Wintertime, when the water temperature drops down to the high 50s in Fahrenheit, they will actually stay down there to stay warm. There's a manatee about to come up right here to the right. Little small eyes.
As well as manatees, dolphins are at the top of most people's list when it comes to the ocean megafauna they'd like to spot. And Fort Myers will not disappoint. Southwest Florida is home to one of the highest concentration of bottlenose dolphins. And thanks to the fact that many pods have Pine Island Sound as part of their home range, you have a great chance of seeing them out on the water. Keep Lady Luck on your side and look out for the Lady Chadwick, an inter-island ferry that the dolphins love to play in the wake of. But don't get too caught up in the big animals. There are some equally interesting characters hanging out on the seafloor.
What do you got, a live lightning whelk?
It's a live lightning whelk here. This is how you find them when they're walking, when they're alive. Gastropodum meaning stomach foot, walking such as this. There are other gastropods such as horse conchs that would eat this type of gastropod. Sort of like a tug of war ensues where the larger, typically snail, will pull a smaller snail out. Then you're left with an empty shell. That's when a hermit crab comes into place.
But yeah, so all of these animals, these are called mollusks, and mollusks make their shells. They'll never leave the shell. Think of it as bones in your body. We're born with our bones, and our bones continue to grow with us. Same for them. So they're born with these shells, and they're not going to leave them. This one is called a Gauding nautica. This is a banded tulip, two of my favorite local shells.
There are lots of reptiles that make their home in Fort Myers too. From gopher tortoises to anole lizards. The most notable and charismatic of which, however, are sea turtles.
So the holes, these are ghost crab holes. They're a white yellowish crab. They'll dig down in the sand. Of course, they'll make many different holes. They come out at night, but there's a bunch of them right here because this is a sea turtle nest, and they do eat baby sea turtles. And the females, they'll crawl ashore at night, and that's how we know where the nests are, is we see the tracks of the turtles, and then we determine if it's a nest by digging down and locating the egg chamber. We do screen those egg chambers so that coyotes, bobcats, and raccoons don't get in the nest, and then at night is when they hatch. Usually 60 days after they've been laid, but it depends on temperature and moisture as to when they're gonna hatch. The odds are 1 in 1,000 will be able to reproduce 20 to 30 years later. So 1 in 1,000 will actually make it and survive to come back to the beach.
And finally, the most famous wildlife draw to Fort Myers is the bird life. From birds of prey like osprey to a plethora of waders and seabirds, you can see them all. To get the best bird action, a kayak tour through Ding Darling comes highly recommended. From here, depending on the time of year, you can see egrets and pelicans fishing alongside some of the island's other animal inhabitants, like snakes and alligators.
Terrific. So let's welcome back Pete Corradino, sorry. Oh, there he is. Hey, Pete. I love that photo of you, by the way. You look very cool there. You look like a proper wildlife ranger. Looks great. So we that gave us a bit of a flavour, obviously, for the whole range of wildlife there. And finishing with the birds, and of course, a lot of British are quite passionate about birds. So I believe you're now going to take us through a few slides about the birds and other wildlife of the area. Oh, you're on mute at the moment, Pete.
There we go. How about that?
Okay, great. I'll leave you to it.
Got me now.
Yeah, that's good.
So I'm going to bring us away from the coast just for a little bit, and we're going to talk about some of the freshwater marshes and some of the inland places. And one of my favorite things to do is to pick one of the preserves that's part of something called Conservation 2020. This is a conservation effort that was intended to protect at least 20% of the sensitive areas in this county, and set that aside for the protection of wildlife, protection of the plant life, and to offer recreational opportunities. So I like to take my wife and my 2 kids, and usually every week we go and we find one of these spots, and we go looking for some of the wildlife that I'm going to show you now. So here's a little more detailed map of the area that we're calling the beaches of Sanibel and Fort Myers. And what I want you to focus on here are the green areas. Those green areas are properties that have been set aside for protection. And many of those are preserves that are accessible, and they're relatively unknown in a lot of cases. And so it's really a great opportunity to get out and to be in a secluded area, and in some cases have these places all to your own. So I'm not going to go into the details of those, but it just gives you an idea of how many great places are hidden here in Lee County, Florida. I want to talk about birds first. Absolutely love birds. On my Everglades eco tours, we focus on the 365 bird species that are either endemic, local, or they're traveling through the area. And one of my favorites is the osprey. This is one of the birds that is a huge success story. It was on the endangered species list a few years ago and has come back very well and is ubiquitous all over Southwest Florida. Osprey is an old German word that basically means bone breaker. And these are the birds that you'll see diving down, hitting the water, and smashing a fish to death, basically. And then from there, they pick them up and take them off to rip them apart and eat them in some protected perch somewhere. So beautiful bird. The swallow-tailed kite, one of my favorites. This is a bird that most people may not even pay attention to. This is a bird that hovers like a kite, like the toy. So it is a bird of prey. It is that beautiful snowy white with this navy blue plumage. And they are here pretty much just from April to August. They are migrating from South America, and they breed here in Southwest Florida and here in Lee County. And they spend a lot of time in the air. They're looking for prey like chicks on nests. They're looking for frogs and lizards. And they will fly, swoop down, pick a critter off the limbs of trees, and then continue to fly and eat while they're in flight looking for their next meal. So we don't often see them perched. This is why this is one of my favorite pictures I've ever taken. This is one of only 3 times I've ever seen one of these birds sitting still. They're so active, but definitely one of my favorites. Now the black-necked stilt, another migrator. This one comes in, and when the water levels in Southwest Florida start to drop down, so after our rainy season ends in October, the black-necked stilt will return. They come from South America as well, and Central America, and they make their nests on the shallow mudflats. So at a time when the water drops down, they make their nests. The chicks are born about 24 days later. They are quite precocial. They are ready to fly in just a few days after that, and then they head back down south after a couple weeks. These are really interesting birds in that their legs are really long, which allows them to wade in shallow water, but they have the longest leg to body ratio of any bird in North America, with the exception of the flamingo. So long legs. A very colorful bird that is found all throughout the freshwater marshes here. They like to come out when there's a little bit of a drizzle. This one's out in full sunlight here, but this is the purple gallinule. Has nice iridescent purple, blue, and green plumage. A little bit tricky, actually. What you're seeing when you look at these birds is actually the reflection of light. So they don't really have purple and blue feathers. That is just the light that is reflected. And then they've got that very colorful, kind of a candy corn colored beak there. Next is the limpkin. The limpkin, this is Another interesting bird in that the name limpkin comes from a behavior that they show when a predator is trying to get at their nests. Now, the limpkin will feign injury, and when a predator thinks that they're going after an easy meal, they will continue to lead it away from the nest by limping, and then they take off. The predator has lost a potential meal at the nest, and the bird has saved their chicks. Now, the black-crowned night heron, I call these tree penguins when they stand upright. They look very much like penguins to me, but you can see by the red eye that assists them in hunting at nighttime. That is one of the freshwater species sometimes found along our coastlines, but one of the many herons found in South Florida. This one, Captain Bob probably sees quite frequently. We'll be hearing from him in a bit, but the white ibis. White ibis are found all throughout South Florida, all throughout Florida, really. One of the most common birds. They've got that long curved red beak, which they stick down into the sand or the mud, and then they use a very long tongue to probe around for insects or fish or other little critters that they can gobble up. Now, the roseate spoonbill. The roseate spoonbill, I apologize, I'm missing part of the name there. This is certainly one of the most colorful birds. It is most often confused with the flamingo, maybe just in passing. They have those bright pink colors on their feathers, and they get that from eating shrimp. So the shrimp eat algae, which have keratines in them, and those keratines, those pigments, work their way up the food chain to the spoonbills and give them those beautiful colors, which they use to attract a mate. And of course, they have that interesting kind of a spatula-shaped bill or a spoon bill, which they use to sift sift fish and insects out of the water. The great egrets. One of the great times to come visit Florida for the birding is during the nesting season. So January to April, many of these birds are producing these beautiful plumage feathers. In this case, the egrets. This is where the bird gets its name, the egret. That's derived from egrets, which are these fancy feathers that are developed just for breeding, just for courtship. So they will flare those feathers, they'll show them off to attract a mate, and then once they've mated, those feathers fall out. So this is one of the largest of the egrets. Actually, it is the largest egret. It also has this green eye patch, which is developed just for the courtship season. The crested caracara. Crested caracaras are I want to say all these birds are my favorite birds, but I absolutely love this bird. This is a bird of prey. It is a ground falcon, so it's related to the falcons. It's in the falcon family. They feed mostly on carrion, though. So like vultures, they eat dead things. And so they're found a little bit further to the east, so just on the fringes of Lee County, where they're feeding on roadkill or injured animals, animals that have passed away from other reasons. But just an absolutely cool bird. They've got this crest on their head, which they flare up during courtship. The anhinga, another bird that is found in freshwater, brackish water. They're found in quite a few places in our area. The anhinga is the bird that most people often see with their wings outstretched. So after they have gone fishing in the water for fish, frogs, snakes, they will eat it. And then when they come out of the water, they need to sit and dry those wings off before they can fly. So that is one of the most conspicuous of the water birds here in South Florida. Now we're going to shift to the reptiles. The green anole. There's a couple different ways people pronounce that. I love how they said that in the video that we just saw, because that's how I say it too. Anole rhymes with cannoli. This is our native version. The green anole. We have lots of brown anoles. They come from parts down south, Cuba, the Bahamas, and other places. But the green anole is a native here. This is the reptile that will flare its dewlap. I'm trying to show you the dewlap, which I don't have yet, but it's a skin flap underneath their throat, and they will extend that and show off either a pink, orange, or red piece of skin that they use to attract a mate. I'm going to go quickly. I don't want to take up too much of our panel's time here. A lot of people have fear about the venomous reptiles. We have 4 that live in our area, and one is the cottonmouth. They are relatively harmless unless you bother them. In this case, the cottonmouth has coiled up and just basically says, stay away from me. I'm venomous. You mess with me, and I will give you trouble. So beautiful snake. I love snakes, and fortunately, most people have a good, healthy respect for them. The gopher tortoise. Gopher tortoises are found in a variety of different habitats, but this is a protected species that can burrow down into the ground and create tunnels that extend, in some cases, up to 200 feet long. That is a rarity, but usually it's about 15 to 20 feet. And in those burrows that they make, they're basically creating habitat for other wildlife, including rabbits, rattlesnakes, and up to 200 plus species of other animals that share those burrows with them. The snapping turtle, another animal you don't want to mess with. Leave them alone, they'll leave you alone, but these are found in freshwater ponds and rivers. The leopard grasshopper. The leopard grasshoppers are really cool. They are the most colorful insect, I think, that we have down here. The red, the yellow, the orange says to predators, I am poisonous. Do not eat me, because if you do, you're going to get sick. This is a grasshopper that cannot fly. They don't need to, because that colorful protection lets predators know to stay away from them. It's also the largest grasshopper in North America. They reach up to 4 inches in length, so really huge. The Florida panther. The Florida panther, that is the subspecies of the eastern cougar or mountain lion. We have an estimated 100 to 200 Florida panthers in South Florida, and we have a few that are on the outskirts of Lee County, or actually in Lee County. Very rare to see. I've been living in Florida most of my life, born and raised, and I've only ever seen one, which was just an absolutely majestic experience. Marsh rabbits, one of the prey species of those panthers. Marsh rabbits are able to swim. They got to be careful, though, because we have, of course, alligators, which I believe we'll get to here in a moment. Wild coffee. If Dunkin' Donuts and Starbucks doesn't do it for you, you can try our wild coffee. This is the shiny leafed wild coffee that is found in most of the wild places that are here in Lee County. The Seminole tribe, as well as the Calusa that lived here many, many years ago, would take those berries and they would make a coffee out of it. The scientific name for it is Psychotropa nervosa. That's not something I have tried myself. And the Florida royal palm. We see these all throughout Fort Myers. Thomas Edison was famous for bringing many of the Florida royal palms to the Fort Myers area. So pretty much everywhere you go, you're going to see these trees, but they grow natively just a little bit further down south in the Everglades. And then, of course, the American alligator. I think this is my last slide. The American alligator, this is one of the things that a lot of people come to see. If I know that the dolphins and the manatee, they're the headliners as well. But the American alligators pretty much are found anywhere that you're going to find fresh water. So if it's a canal, a pond, sometimes they get into people's swimming pools. They're found on the barrier islands, so out on Sanibel and Fort Myers Beach, and they're found all throughout the interior part of the state. So they can reach lengths of, these days, up to about 14 feet plus, and they are definitely a fun thing to go looking for, and they're found all throughout Lee County. All right, well, I think that wraps up my pretty pictures.
Hey, Pete, thank you for that. That was absolutely fascinating. In fact, we could have done a whole session just on the wildlife, the flora and fauna, couldn't we? I mean, so much there you obviously could have talked about. Good grief. And sometimes the most surprising things on the things like the alligators, amazing though they are, but rabbits that swim.
Rabbits that swim. Yep.
Yeah, I didn't know about swimming bunnies. Good grief. We don't have those over here. And only got short ears as well. That's a bit strange. I loved that grasshopper as well. That just looks so cool. Good grief. Want to see one of those. And yeah. So no, that was absolutely fascinating. So many things I could ask you, but just very quickly, because naturally we never have enough time on these things. So something very quickly for a wildlife lover. When would be the optimum time to come out? Yeah, there must be certain seasons around these things, which I know might be different as well for, a bird lover to seeing perhaps marine animals or other wildlife. So when is the right time to come out?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and I'll answer it as quickly as I can. Miriam said something that's important, that our season has kind of stretched to 12 months out of the year. And anytime anybody visits, they're going to see something interesting. So in the summertime, you're going to see those kites, and you're going to see a variety of different migratory birds that are coming here to nest. My favorite time is basically now through April, May, depending on if the weather cooperates and stays cool, because the water levels drop down. The birds are nesting. They're very abundant. The alligators are out basking in the sun, so they're just like tourists. That's all they want to do, just eat and hang out in the sun. So you can't miss. You're always going to have something to see at some point. But my favorite is going to be now through April.
Okay, everybody, if you want to hang out with the alligators, get out there before April. Sounds like the best advice. That was brilliant. Thank you so much, Pete.
Absolutely.
And of course, we'll have you back in a few minutes for the Q&A. And everybody, if you have got questions for Pete, do put them in the chat box. And we'll try and get some more of that expertise out of him in the Q&A. So can I just welcome back Miriam for a little bit before we go to Captain Bob? Oh, Miriam, that was so interesting, wasn't it?
Oh, I love it. And I know he could go on, and he did a great job describing and giving us a chance to see all the wildlife, because you really will get to see all of these things up close too. It's really fun.
Yeah, which I think for certainly the British amongst us, I appreciate we're not all British on this, but for the British amongst us, we get excited just to see a rabbit across a field. So
and when you said swimming bunny, I seriously laughed out loud.
Yeah.
It does give you an image, right? But it's real. I mean, the stuff you can imagine, it really happens here in Florida, in Southwest.
Yeah. Well, we didn't even manage to get into the manatees or the dolphins and all that other stuff as well, which I know, again, we could just talk about for hours. So we're not going to, because moving away from wildlife, what about activities, though? I mean, must be a great place for outdoor activities. So can you just
if you're
tell us?
I'm sorry, Lynn, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but you're right. If you're an outdoors person, or if you're not, you will become one coming here. And I don't mean to kind of oversell that, so to speak, but it's really true. I was actually born and raised in the Northeast in cold weather as well. So when I moved to Florida, the thought of alligators and all the insects was a little bit overwhelming at first, but I'm telling you, it's not bad. It's amazing, because you really feel like you're in a movie all the time, because there's a manatee, there's the dolphin, and they're real in their wildlife. But for other activities that you can do to be able to go see these things too. First of all, we do have museums and theaters, shopping boutiques, and all of that kind of stuff too. If anyone else loves shopping as much as I do, there's plenty of that. But we do want to talk about the outdoors part of it, because you want to get on the water somehow, some way. Paddling is a really exciting way to do it. You can rent paddle boards, again, in any one of these different islands, different places. You can rent them for like the day if you wanted to, or you can go out to a place, to the beach or to an outfitter and rent it by the hour or something like that. Another thing to do is kayaking. I have to say, kayaking, if you're intimidated by the thought of being that close on the water and that close, in an alligator's environment, I'm telling you, it's not what you think. I mean, you are there in nature's, wonder. but it is not where you need to be scared or anything like that. And I say that because we do get a lot of visitors who are like, I want to do it, but I'm scared and I need to watch it first. It will change your life because you're literally on the water. You get to take it all in. And it's not just the wildlife, it's the flora and fauna. It's the plants and the flowers and all of the other stuff that is just really remarkable to see. And it's peaceful. And it's for all ages and all levels of ability. Biking is another thing. If you're into that, Sanibel has over 50 miles of bike paths. And Ding Darling is another spot that allows biking in that area on Sanibel, Cape Coral as well, and all of our other preserves and places like that. So, swimming and shelling and all those things that would be obvious coming to the beach. But island hopping is an actual thing that you can do as well. So I know we keep touching on that, but I do think if you're coming here, you're going to get on that water and it's going to blow your mind, because whether you're kayaking or in a river, in a lake of some kind, or out in the Gulf, it's really, really beautiful. And for newbies to doing this kind of stuff, it really is special. For a regular person who does this all the time and is really athletic or something, you're going to find something new that you didn't see somewhere else. But the island hopping part of it too is you can go to some of these little islands and set up your own picnic, or go check out one of the restaurants and go fishing if you wanted to. And you could even jet ski between the two of them. When my husband and I were just friends at the time, he got a jet ski and he's like, let's go jet skiing from Sanibel to Fort Myers Beach. And I thought he was crazy, looking at that map, but it isn't. It's so cool. And you go, and then all of a sudden you get these dolphins coming right up alongside of you, so it's just really magical. So I would say those would be my top. I think I went way overboard. I was supposed to only talk about I think I talked about 20. So get on the water is what I'm saying.
So much we could say. Yeah. And I love the idea of all of those. Well, but we do need to move on. So nice segue there into island hopping, because we are going to have Captain Bob next. So let's first of all get a nice taster video. Right. Oh, yeah. A slightly abrupt ending there, or something there was. I don't know if it was my connection. But anyway, it gave us a flavour at least. So welcome, Captain Bob. And I'll leave you to take us through a few slides.
Okay, great. Thank you, Lynn and Miriam, for having me on. I'm really, really excited to share our beautiful piece of Florida with everybody out there. So we're here at Captiva Cruises, and we operate a variety of different cruises from Captiva Island. And we go to destinations that you can really only get to by boat. And that's what makes this area so special. Like Miriam was saying, there's hundreds of islands out here, and we have the opportunity to bring visitors to some of these islands. And it's really a special experience to get out and see these islands from the water. We're a family-owned business. We've been in business since 1986. We have two locations on Captiva where we originate cruises from. One of them is in South Seas Resort, and the other one is just outside the gates of South Seas Resort. And different cruises leave from different departure points, but we'll take care of informing everybody about that as they make their reservations. So, here's a nice little map of areas that we visit. Like Miriam's map, you see all these islands out here. We visit several of them. Most of them, like I said, are only accessible by boat. A few of them are accessible. Some of our destinations are accessible by automobile also. But the advantage of going by boat is it just takes so much less time to get to Boca Grande, for instance, from Captiva by boat than it does to drive there by automobile. Same thing with the Tarpon Lodge on Pine Island. We do some great tours there. with the Randall Research Center and a great restaurant called the Tarpon Lodge. We also do cruises that aren't destinations. We do dolphin watch cruises and sunset cruises. We stay on the boat the whole time, so it's not all of our cruises are not destination cruises. One of my favorite spots is Cabbage Key, and I know Miriam talked about Cabbage Key earlier. We say it's old Florida. Not much has changed there in the last 100 years or so. The island is about 100 acres. There's 10 buildings on it. Most of the little buildings are rental cottages where you can really get away. It's a place if you wanted to rent one of the cottages there for a couple nights to add into your trip to the Fort Myers area. It's a really great experience, and the restaurant and inn where our passengers have lunch was an inn-built or a home built by a playwright novelist named Mary Roberts Reinhardt, who a lot of people say she was the American version of Agatha Christie. Never became as popular as Agatha Christie, but she was a pretty remarkable woman. You'd have lunch in her winter estate, and then you can tour the island. They have a beautiful nature trail that goes around, and it's kind of self-guided. There's these plaques that you see that identify what you're looking at. And I always recommend for people to go up to the top of the water tower. Once you're on top of the water tower, you get an amazing panoramic view of the surrounding islands and Pine Island Sound. Another great spot that we visit is called Usepa Island, which is right across the Intracoastal Waterway from Cabbage Key. A lot of history on Usepa Island. Archaeologists document 10,000 years of man's habitation on Usepa Island. There's been several archaeological digs on the island to learn more about it and its inhabitants. And they have a great little museum that does an excellent job documenting the island's history all the way from 10,000 years ago, Paleo Indians, the Native Americans that inhabited this part of Florida, who were the Calusa Indians, all the way up to the modern history. It became a millionaire's fishing retreat. Baron Collier built it up as a place for the very wealthy to go fishing. People like the Vanderbilts, the DuPonts, the Rothschilds, the Crown and Shields. They'd come to Usepa Island to go tarpon fishing, to be specific, and also enjoy the socializing that went along with it. And Cayo Costa, Cayo Costa sort of is the hidden gem. It's a barrier island that's not been developed. I know Miriam talked about camping on the island. The island's about 9 miles long, and in its widest point, it's a mile wide. There's less than 24 private homes on the island, and the rest of it is owned by the state of Florida, and it's part of the Florida State Park System. Secluded, beautiful, natural, unspoiled beaches, and people go there. It's known like as Sanibel is a worldwide shelling destination. The advantage of going to Cayo Costa to look for shells is there's a lot less competition out there looking for them too, because you can only get there by boat. And it really is, they say, the jewel of the Florida park system, and I truly believe that. And, come out with us, and you can see, you've seen several video and photos of dolphins. That's kind of always the main attraction, of all of our cruises, really the wildlife and especially the dolphins. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Bob. Captain Bob, that was great. That gave us a real flavour, and so many questions I could ask about the islands. I'm just so frustrated at the lack of time we have. Which is your favourite island, by the way?
I love Cabbage Key. I really do. It's just relaxing to go there. I don't want to reveal too much about myself, but it has a great bar. And it's a lot of fun to hang out there, have a cheeseburger in paradise. Everything on the menu is excellent. It's just a fun place to hang out.
Oh, that sounds great. And I see at least one or two people in the chat box have been out with you before as well. Andrea Holt says, my husband's son and I once went on a catamaran cruise with Captiva Cruises. It was low season, and she says it was a magical moment. So that sounds brilliant. Okay, well, let's welcome back the rest of our panel as well. So if we can invite back Yeah, Pete and Miriam and Kath to join us. Terrific. Well done, guys. As you can see, the time is going far too quickly, which is so frustrating, but we'll try and squeeze a couple of questions in. So actually, Kath, for those of us from the UK, as I say, just to stress, we're not all from the UK on here, but for those of us from the UK, what's your suggestion actually getting there about flying in? What do you recommend?
Well, there's a variety of options depending on what else you want to do. So Florida is a great fly drive destination. So if you're thinking of pairing the beaches of Fort Myers and Sanibel with another part of Florida, then use one of the larger gateways, Miami, Tampa, or Orlando. But there's so much to see and do, and so much chilling time that you could have in this area that you could equally spend your 2 whole weeks there if you were going on a 2-week trip. So in which case, use the Fort Myers Regional Airport. The connections are great in there, and it's a small airport. You can literally get off the flight, pick up your bag, get your car, and be by the beach in half an hour. So that's a perfect way to do it.
Oh, that sounds good. Now, I don't know whether you can answer this or whether Miriam can, but we've got a question about COVID testing. I understand that a specific type of antigen test is required as a condition of entry into the USA.
Yeah, and certainly we can put some further links because it is as with all of these things, it's a bit of a minefield.
It's a little bit different by next week.
Yeah, probably, and let's hope not, but too much longer. But in just as a simple answer, to enter the US, if you need to be fully vaccinated if you're a UK traveller on leisure. And you need to take either a PCR test or an antigen test within 3 days of travel. And if you choose an antigen test, which is obviously a cheaper option here in terms of testing, you either need to have it done in person, or if you choose a home test, it needs to be one that has a video connection so that whoever's providing the test can verify your physical identity against your passport and the test result, and that it was you actually taking the test. So it's not as complicated as it's made out to be on all the government websites. It's relatively straightforward.
And of course, one of the great advantages of using an expert travel company is they do the hard work for you. So
Thank you.
I'd like to say, no, absolutely. And very quickly, Linda asks, does America As You Like It do group tours or is it only tailor-made?
Yeah, we do have some access to some small group tours. We don't put them together ourselves, but we work with some local suppliers in the US that do some group tours, as well as putting fly drives together, or just single centres where, and I think you've seen tonight, you don't necessarily need to rent a car and do a fly drive to visit this part of Florida. You could fly in, take a taxi, take an Uber to your resort and get around really easily without having to do a fly drive. So there are lots of different options.
And then take boats, then go out with Captain Bob.
Yeah, go on the boat or kayak your way.
Or kayak with Pete.
Exactly.
Exactly. So Miriam, what would you suggest for the length of time if somebody was planning to come and stay? What would be the minimum? Because I know you could say somebody could spend weeks and weeks there.
Yeah, you could spend a long time here. You can also just have a really good weekend. If you want to, unwind, as they rewind, and relax all at the same time. But you want time. That's the thing here. It's like we want you to relax, and it is a place that just instantly makes you unwind and relax and put that phone down and just connect on a different level. So I would, if you really want to take it all in, and of course, if you're traveling from the UK, you've got, some jet lag and travel time in there. I would say at least a week. I know the gentleman here, Captain Bob and Pete, you may have other ideas too of how, I'm a fan of, you can do things depending on what kind of a trip you want in a short amount of time, but you want that time on the boat, that's where the magic happens, I think. So rushing it, what we find a lot of times too with people who come only for a short time, it's like, oh my goodness, I didn't even get a chance to fully scratch the surface of everything, but you always leave a little more relaxed. So anytime here is good.
Yeah. And Pete, what about, because, I know you've certainly captured my imagination. I want to go out looking for wildlife with you, but what would be the kind of, how long would I go out with you for instance? How would we do that?
On my tour specifically?
Yeah.
I mean, I always promote the full day safari. So that's where you get to go on an airboat ride. That's the thing that everybody should do when they come and visit the Everglades. We do a nature walk. We do a wildlife drive into Big Cypress National Preserve, and we do a mangrove wilderness boat tour. So we do all of that part of one package, which is, it's a true safari. It's really the way to go. I love doing that tour.
Talk about true safaris. Mary's just asked at night on the islands, and I guess we're not talking too much about the islands here, but about the Everglades. But are there biting insects? Will we get bitten if we come out with you, Pete?
Will you get bitten if you come out with me? By what? By mosquitoes? Is that what the question was?
Yeah, biting insects.
It's going to be seasonal, and that's another reason I was saying November to April, May is a good time to be in the Everglades, because during the daytime, the water level is low enough where there's not going to be a whole lot of places for them to breed, and so there's less. Right now, we haven't been getting any, so I'm saving on insect repellent. But in the summertime, when the water level's higher, there's going to be insects. But we have accommodations to take care of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And presumably, Bob or Miriam, presumably on the islands, are insects a problem? Biting insects, or you've got a nice breeze and.
There's a breeze on the island. I think our Lee County mosquito control does a fantastic job. I am very rarely bothered by bugs when I'm out at work or I'm out on the island. You have some pockets at times of the year where the rain just overwhelms the system and you get a lot of mosquito breeding. But for most off, I think that the mosquito control does an excellent job.
Okay. And moving away from that, so Bob, are the boat trips available any time of year? Like, does it ever get choppy? Do you get bad weather, or is it something we can do any day of the year?
Yeah, so we're lucky enough all our cruising takes place within Pine Island Sound, which is a very protected body of water. It's very shallow. It's protected by land. It's only 5 miles wide and 20 miles long. So wave action doesn't have a chance to build up. So we very, very rarely have to cancel our cruises because of high seas or anything like that. We have a variety of cruises to accommodate all kinds of people. Some people may be a little bit leery of going out on a longer cruise, so we have shorter cruises. They can see how tranquil it is out there on a short cruise before they commit to one of the longer trips. So you can go out any time of year. We're 12 months a year. We slow down a little bit in September, but for the most of the year, we're cruising at a full a variety of cruises.
Brilliant. I think we're all longing to be out on the water in the warmth at the moment, aren't we? Now, I've just seen the time, and sadly we are running out. So just to remind everybody watching that we are going to send out the follow-up email. It's going to have the link, and we'll all the useful links in there, and we'll have the recording of this evening as well. So just to finish off, and it's such a shame we've run out of time, but just to finish off, I'm going to ask the panel to very quickly, if there's one recommendation, one thing any of us watching should do when we come out, what will that be? So let's start with Bob.
I would say see a dolphin in its natural environment. See a wild dolphin come and interact with you as its own chosen behavior. It does it because it has fun doing it, and you got to see it from the water. It's incredible.
Oh, that sounds magical. Yeah, got me there. That sounds brilliant. Okay, Pete, what about you?
I'm going to do two because it's going to be quick. But Cayo Casto, everybody's not kidding about this place. If you go camping at nighttime, the Milky Way is unbelievable if you get a clear night. And then in the freshwater swamps, the Corkscrew Swamp, the 6 Mile Cypress Slough. 6 Mile Cypress Slough. That's hard to say. That is a beautiful boardwalk here in Lee County, and if you're lucky, you'll get to see otters and alligators and nice variety of birds.
Oh, see, I want to ask you all about that. Oh, life is so unfair. This is just doing me in. This is it's killing me. Okay, Kath, what about you?
Oh, I would have to as well. Definitely kayaking at Ding Darling. that was a highlight of the trip that I was on last time to this area. Just getting out on the water under your own steam and seeing an alligator, seeing all the bird life and all of that. And then finishing the day, toasting the sunset with a cocktail and seeing the green flash as the sun dips into the sea. Can't miss that.
Oh, dear. Oh, it sounds so good. And okay, last but not least, Miriam.
I second everything they said. You have to do all those amazing things. And then if you need to keep it really simple, get a good ice cream cone at Love Boat Ice Cream.
Oh,
and
yeah.
sit by the Sanibel Causeway. If you really can't stay long and get on those boats or those tours, the Sanibel Causeway bridges go right over, and it's just symbolic and it's magical, and it just takes you to this place where you just feel like really taken away. So, and enjoy that ice cream cone or a drink.
Oh, incredible. Oh, that sounds really good. Well, we'll make sure that those recommendations are in the follow-up email as well, because I know I've been scribbling them down, so I'm sure everybody else has been as well. So we'll make sure we share those. And thank you so much, guys. I concur with Tara, who says in capitals, thank you so much. Brilliant. I want to jump on a plane tomorrow, swim with a manatee again. So, yeah. Thank you so much to our great panel. We could have talked for hours, but that was so enticing, and that sounds really, really good. So thank you very much. And thank you, everybody, for watching, and look out for the follow-up email. Thank you, guys. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.